Okay, welcome everyone. As we go to part 2 on the Motzi Shabbos Freilich and Chanuka marathon, as we learn now today's Daf Lamed Zayin in Masechtas Bava Kama, starting the new parak. We are sponsored this evening by Yitzi Muller in honor of the Shir, and for a special refuah for his Talmud David ben Sarah. We also remind you that tomorrow night we are back at our regular time of 8 o'clock, and we ask everybody to be mechazik, to try to work their parties around the shir so that you don't lose your kfiyas itim l'Torah, especially on Chanukah, where it's a great Indian to learn. We also want to remind you that now, it's a new thing, but now you could sponsor a chok, and we have a special introductory offer. It deserves a much bigger sponsorship, but you could sponsor a chok for $100 now, which is really a great bargain. These chok will be used by people all over the world, and by Hasidim and Sfardim especially, that specialize in the learning of chok. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. We will have a rear, and I mean rear, shir on mikates. Usually, mikates falls out on Chanukah, and it's usually superseded by the Chanukah shir. But we already had a Chanukah shir, so this coming week's shir will be a special shir on mikates, Be'ezus Hashem, and if you would like to sponsor it, we don't have a sponsor yet, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. We begin at the new Mishnah on Daf Lamed Zayin, Shorshu Muad Laminai, a shor that's a muad to another ox. Gored an ox 3 times, but he's not a muad for a different animal, a horse, a camel, a donkey. Muad l'adam is a muad to gore people. Ve'ein a muad l'beheimah, not a muad to animals. Muad l'ketanim is a muad to small ones. Ve'ein a muad l'gedolim is not a muad to big ones. So eshu muad lai, the one that is a muad, let's say a shar or a human or small ones, mishalem nezik shalom. The esh ain't a muad lai, and the one that he's not a muad for, mishalem chatzi nezik, he pays a chatzi nezik. The Gemara will show us that it's not as simple as it sounds. Amru l'fnei Rabbi Yehuda, they said before Rabbi Yehuda, harizeh muad l'shabbos ve'ein a muad l'chol. Let's say he gores on Shabbos, but he doesn't gore during the week. Amalahem, so he said l'shabbos mishalem nezik shalom. Shabbos he pays a nezik shalom. L'yimay sechol mishalem chatzi nezik. Now there's 2 rationale why Shabbos should be different than during the week. One rationale is remember we have a mitzvah of shvisas be'emtoi. An animal is not worked on Shabbos, and therefore since the animal is idle, a person is idle. Habatola maybe alidei shiabim. Idleness. So he's idle, so he gets ants in his pants. And he does damage. During the week, he's not idle, he's working. Ramila said the safest guy is the one that's busy under his car. That's one pshat. The other pshat is that on Shabbos, he sees people in their finery and he doesn't recognize them. He's used to them during the week. And he sees them in their finery, he doesn't recognize them, and therefore he does damage. According to this reason, this svara would only be by people, because animals don't dress different on Shabbos than during the week. The first svara, it would apply to animals too, because it's talking about that the animal that does the damage is antsy because it's not working. So the 2 reasons really have a halachic difference. So now, and the Mishnah then goes on to say, Ema Sayhu Tam, this animal that gored for 3 Shabbos, when does he become a Tam? When it passed before them Shvarim on 3 consecutive Shabbos and he doesn't do damage, so now he becomes a tam. So now the Gemara says that it's good to have Shimon Deer joining us, Mark Frankel joining us. I see Yehuda from Yerushalayim, Abe Arbach, Shelley Zeitlin came in, Shimon Klein. It's great to have everybody. Sandy Grunfeld is here, Harrison Kletzel, Yehuda Toiv, Freilich and Chanukah, everyone. Now here, there is an ambiguity in the Mishnah. When it says that he's a mu'id for minai and not a mu'id for einai minai. There's two ways to learn. One way to learn is it's just telling us a rule. That an animal that's mu'id to shvarim is not a mu'id to camels, is not a mu'id to donkeys. That's the way Rav Papa learns. It's mu'id l'shvarim, eina mu'id l'sheina minai. That's the one way to learn. Rav Zvid learns, no. Our Mishnah means mu'id l'minai v'she'enai mu'id l'she'enai minai. We know that he's not a mu'id because this animal was a mu'id l'shvarim, but whenever it was around donkeys, camels, and horses, it didn't do damage. And it's only v'she'enai because we know it's not. But otherwise, it is a mu'id. We assume just like it's a mu'id for shvarim, it's a mu'id for other animals too. We assume just like it's a mu'id l'adam, it's a mu'id l'behema. That's even we assume just like it's a mu'id l'ktanim, it's a mu'id l'gdailim. So there's a very big difference between Rav Zvid and Rav Papa as the Gemara proceeds to show us. Emar. Rav Zvid Amar ve'einai mu'id tanan. No, there's another piece of information that we know that it's not a mu'id. We saw it go in front of a horse and a camel and it didn't gore. Rav Papa Amar, no, einai mu'id tanan. It's not a mu'id. It's a fact. If it's a mu'id to a shar, it's not a mu'id to anything else. You don't need any extra information. You're only a mu'id to what it's a mu'id for. And now the Gemara explains this in greater detail. Rav Zvid Amar ve'einai mu'id tanan because it passed by a donkey, a horse, a camel, and it didn't do damage. Horse stama have a mu'id, but minastam, if it's a mu'id to a shar, we assume it's a mu'id to other animals too. Rav Papa and Amar, no. The assumption is pum fakir. Einai mu'id tanan. We don't assume it's a mu'id unless it gores the other animals. If not, the stama lo have a mu'id. Stam, it's not a mu'id. So now, Rav Zvid and Rav Papa will show their respective proofs for their position. So first, let's analyze Rav Zvid. Remember, Rav Zvid says that minastam, it is a mu'id for other things, unless we know ve'einai mu'id tanan, unless we see it pass donkeys and horses and it doesn't gore. Rav Zvid daik m'seipa, Rav Papa daik m'reisha. Let's see what Rav Zvid's diak is first. Rav Zvid daik m'seipa, as we learn to be mekayim the mitzvah d'abar tabam, lasas nachas ruach liyotzreinu, to do the best thing that we could be doing on Chanuka. And by the way, this doesn't put on weight. Sufganiyot put on a lot of weight. This doesn't put on any weight. It stretches the mind and keeps us healthy. Now, Rav Zvid daik m'seifa. Rav Zvid makes a diak from the Sefer. Diktani, it says mu'id l'ketanim ve'einai mu'id l'gdailim. If he's a mu'id to small animals, he's not a mu'id to big animals. So, iyamid bishleima, it means that he's not a mu'id to big animals. That means he went before big animals and he didn't gore. Iyamid bishleima ve'einai mu'id ketani, hastama have a mu'id, but minastam, if he's a mu'id l'ketanim, he's a mu'id even to Gdailim. That's a chiddush. Hakamash Milan, that dafilu b'ketanim, even if he's a mu'id to ketanim, l'Gdailim navi mistam avi mu'id. Even so, we assume that he's a mu'id for the big animals. Now, that's a big chiddush, because it only gored small animals, and you still assume that it's automatically a mu'ud for big animals. If it's telling you that it's not a mu'ud, automatically that it's not a mu'ud for the other type, well, hashti yesh leimer miktanim liktanim da'alma, from one species to another species, it's not a mu'ud, even though they're both katanim. We're saying that from one species to another species, even though they're both the same size, it's not a mu'ud. Wouldn't we say automatically from a small to a big, it's surely not a mu'ud? Miktanim l'gedolim tzricha l'meima d'le'avi mu'ud? Is it a chiddush to say that from a small to a big, it's not a mu'ud? But Rav Papa doesn't agree. Rav Papa says, I might think that once it's a mu'ud to its own kind, it makes no difference if it's a big one or a small one. Since it starts damaging its own kind, maybe it's a mu'ud to all of its own kind. I might think Paritz Bay, it's its own kind. Therefore, Kamash Malan, that even if it's its own kind, if it's a mu'ud to ketanim, it's not mu'ud gedolim. Kamash Malan dole'avi mu'ud. Rav Papa daik mereisha. Remember, what does Rav Papa learn? Rav Papa says that it means that if it's a mu'ud for an adam, it's automatically assumed that it's not a mu'ud for a behemoth. If it's a mu'ud for one species, it's automatically assumed that it's not a mu'ud for another species. Rav Papa daik mereisha. Diktani mu'ud la'adam eina mu'ud la'behemoth. If it's a mu'ud la'adam, it's automatically assumed that it's not a mu'ud la'behemoth. I amri bishleime eina mu'ud tanan, that it means stamaloi having mu'ud, that minastam it's not a mu'ud. If you're a mu'ud to adam, minastam it's not a mu'ud to behema. Hakamash malan, even from an adam to a behema. Now you would say if it's a mu'ud to an adam that's an intellectual person and could avoid damage and could dodge it, and it even damages an adam, I would say for sure it's dangerous for an animal. And it's telling you no. If it means that when is it a mu'ud l'adam, not a mu'ud l'behemoth, if it passes behemoth 3 times, but otherwise it's telling you that a mu'ud l'adam is automatically a mu'ud l'behemoth, hastam having mu'ud, there's no chiddush in that. Hashti yesh leima me behemoth l'behemoth, stam having mu'ud, if from one animal to another species, it's minastam a mu'ud, then surely from an adam to another species, adam l'behemoth, tzricha l'meimad having mu'ud, like we said, it's obvious that if it's going to damage an adam who's an intellectual creature and could make evasive maneuvers and take defensive maneuvers, he's a mu'ud, surely should be a mu'ud for a behemoth, there would be no chiddush. Rav Zvid Amalach, Rav Zvid will counter as follows. Rav Zvid Amalach, Rav Zvid will counter and tell you, as we welcome in Bruce Eisenberg joining us, and as I told Rabbi Yisrael, Bruce, we need you to come more often. Make some compromises, it's 4 here, 4 there, we need you to come more often. The compromise club. Now, Rav Zvid Amalach, Rav Zvid will tell you, Reisha, the Kiddush is achazorakai, is how how the animal reverts from a mu'ud to a tam. Going to have a mu'ud la'adam, mu'ud la'behemoth. This ox was a mu'ud for a human and a mu'ud for animals, because according to Rav Zvid, that's the stam, that a mu'ud la'adam is a mu'ud la'behemoth. However, b'hader be'ime behemoth, he went in front of 3 animals and he didn't gore. I might say that chazara is nothing, because since he's a mu'ud la'adam, we should still say that kol shchein is dangerous for an animal. The koi gabe behemoth tells us zimnei v'loy nagach. So I might say, ma'u desema, kevan deloy hader be'ime adam, since he's not reverted from a human, I would still say that he retains his status of a mu'ud la'adam. Chazor de behema lav chazori, because since he's still dangerous for an adam, he must be dangerous for an animal. Kamash malon de chazor de behema mia chazori. That the fact that he was in front of 3 animals and didn't gar, he's not a mu'ud anymore for an animal. Now, Meisvei, Sumchus says, mu'ud lebehema, excuse me, mu'ud la'adam, mu'ud lebehema mikal v'chaymer. A mu'ud la'adam is a mu'ud for an animal with a simple kal v'chaymer. U'ma'al la'adam l'mu'ud, if he's a mu'ud for a human who could protect himself, who has intelligence, who has a mazel, lebehema lo'ikol shnei, surely should be a mu'ud for an animal. Michlal, doesn't that imply, from the fact that Sumchus seems to be arguing on the Mishnah, Michlal, the Tanakama ain't a mu'ud kama. According to Rizvid, the Tanakama also says that mu'ud la'adam ve'ena mu'ud lebehema, only if he goes in front of 3 animals and doesn't gore. But otherwise, stam mu'ud la'adam is a mu'ud lebehema. So that's exactly what Sumchus is saying. Says Gemara, Amalach Rav Zvid, Sumchus achazarakai. Sumchus, what he's arguing with the Tanakama is how you change over from it being a mu'ud to a tam. And this is what he says to the Tanakama. The ka'amrit chazar de behema chazari, that if he goes in front of 3 animals and doesn't gore, so it's not mu'ud anymore for the animals, even though it's still a mu'ud for Adam. I hold chazar de behema lav chazari, because mikal v'chaymer mi Adam, mikal v'chaymer from Adam. Omam Adam like kamadebe, if he's still dangerous for an Adam, then mebehema like kosher, and then he's surely still dangerous for an animal. Rav Ashi now shows that our Mishnah is going according to Rav Zvid and not according to Rav Papa. Remember, Rav Ashi was one of the editors of Shas. The Shas was edited by Ravina and Rav Ashi. So this is, a strong statement from the editor of Shas. As we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, wishing him a Freilich and Chanuka, a Barbach, a Freilich and Chanuka. And really it's the wonders of technology that I could be here for a Shabbos speaking to hundreds of people in Somerset and still join you as if I'm sitting in shul with the people from shul. It's a wonderful feeling. We have noteworthy missing tonight, Irving Fischbaum. Irving Fischbaum is not with us. We'll give a shout out to Irving. I'm sure it's because Irving has a family gathering that he had to be by. So we know that Irving will be listening later, and we wish him a Freilich and Chanukah. Marshall is not here either, but that's because he probably knew it would cost him too much zuzim to come. But anyway, and he's right. He would have lost a lot of zuzim. But Marshall, if you're listening, hello to you as well. Amar Ravashi, Tajma, Amru lifnei Reb Yehuda. They said before Reb Yehuda. Now remember, these are Reb Yehuda's Talmidim saying before their Rebbe, Harizeh muad l'shabbosos. If the animal is a muad l'shabbos, ve'enoi muad l'yemaisachal, and he's not a muad for the weekdays. So Amal Lahan, so Rabbi Yehuda says, if such a thing happens, then there is a difference between Shabbos and Chayil, right? Like we explained, please close the door. Like we explained, either because of the fact that the animal is idle on the Shabbos because the Shvis is Behemtai, or because of the fact that the people are dressed in their finery and he doesn't recognize them. Amalahem l'shabbosos mishalem nezik shalom, li'yemaisachol mishalem chatzi nezik. So now, if you learn like the Pshat of Rozvid, they asked Rabbi Yehuda if it was in front of It gored animals on Shabbos, but it passed by 3 animals during the week and didn't gore them. What's the din? Can you say there's a difference? And he answered, yes, there is a difference. So, it's talking about a situation where the animal gored 3 times on Shabbos, passed 3 times on the weekday, and it didn't gore. Does that develop a difference between Shabbos and the weekday? Then they asked him a question, and he answered, yes, there's a difference between Shabbos and the weekday. If it's just a statement that an animal that's muad l'Shabbos is not a muad l'chol, like Reb Papa explains, so first of all, they're teaching something to their Rebbe. They're telling a halacha to their Rebbe. V'sul, what did Rabbi Yehuda answer? So that's a raya that pshat is like Rav Zvid and not like Reb Papa. And that's a good raya. Reb Yanai has another raya. Amar Reb Yanai, Mereisha Nami Daika. We could deduce this also from the Reisha. How do we deduce this from the Reisha? The Ketani, we learned in the Reisha, Es shemuad loy mishalim nezik shalom, the one that it was a muad to pays a nezik shalom, the es she'ena muad loy mishalim chatzi nezik, the one that's not a muad pays a chatzi nezik. Now, I amrit bishleima ve'enai muad ketani, it sets up a situation where it was in front of the where it gored 3 shvarim, and it passed by other species, and it didn't gore. So it's saying, what's the din in such a case? So Perusha Kamafarish law. So it answers, in such a case, the one that it's muad to is an ezek shalom, and the one that it isn't is a chatzi nezek. If it's just saying straight out a halacha that if it's a muad to shvarim, it's not a muad to other species. So what is the Mishnah telling you? That a muad pays an ezek shalom and a tam pays a chatzi nezek? Pascha, it already says the halacha. Ma'asu heshemud loy mishalom nezek shalom ve'hesheinu muad loy mishalom chatzi nezek. Ad hashta lo yashmina. Until now, we don't know that muad mishalom nezek shalom and the tam pays the chatzi nezek. So therefore, the halacha is like Rav Zvid. However, the Gemara says ve'im timtza loy manami isel Rav Papa. If we would hold like Rav Papa that a muad to shvarim is not a muad to other species, even Rav Papa would agree. Even Rav Papa would agree that nogach shor chamor v'gamal, that if it damages an ox, a donkey, and a camel, it becomes a muad to all 3. Nasa muad l'kol. It becomes to muad to all 3 of those members. Now, Zog the Heilige Gemara, Tan Rabbana, Rosh Shor Nogach. If Yisrael's shor saw a shor and gored it, shor loy nagach, then it saw the shor and didn't gore it. Shor nagach, then the 3rd one it gored, and shor loy nagach, the 4th one it didn't gore. So if it went in such a pattern, again, it gored the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. Rosh shor nagach, shor loy nagach, shor nagach, shor loy nagach, shor nagach, and shor loy nagach. So then, nasa muad l'seirugim l'shvarim. It becomes a muad that it gores every other ox. That's that you could develop such a pattern. You could develop such a pattern. So now, Tana Rabbana, Rosh shor nagach, if it saw a shor and it gored. Chamor loy nagach, it saw a donkey, it didn't gore. Sus nagach, it saw a horse and it gored. Goma loy nagach, it saw a camel, it didn't gore. Pered nagach, a mule, it gored. Aroid loy nagach, a wild donkey, it didn't gore. Nasa muad l'seirugin lako. it becomes a mu'at to gore any species on alternate days, on alternate times. In other words, it's going to gore every other time that it sees any species of an animal. Ibaylu. So now the Gemara declares, this is very interesting. Nogach, now this is Yisrael, he has no control. Mamish out of control with his animals. So Nogach shar shar v'shar chamor v'gama. It gored 3 shvarim and then a donkey and a camel. So what do we say? Do we say that he's a mu'at just to shvarim because it's shar shar shar? Or do we say we look at the last shar together with the chamor and the gamal and say he's a mu'at to all 3 species? And that's the Gemara Shai. Hai shar basra, the last shar, shar, chamor and gadol, the last shar, basar shvarim shadin alay. Do we throw it after the first 2 shvarim? V'akati l'shvarim udiyayid, he's only a mu'at for oxen. L'midei achrina lo yayid, he's not a mu'at for anything else. Oy dilma basar chamor v'gamal shadin alay. The last shar we do together with the chamor and the gamal. V'iyayid le'lekulamine, and he's a mu'at for all 3, for shar, chamor, and gamal. What about the other way around? Chamor, gamal, shar, shar, shar. Started first the donkey, a camel, ox, and ox. Now, that first ox, hay shar kama, basar chamor, gamal, shalim le'u. We put it together with the donkey and the camel, and then the yayid le'lekulamine, he's then a mu'at for all of these species. Oidilma, the first shar we put together with the second and the third. Now we're going to declare the same thing with Shabbos and weekday. Shabbos, b'Shabbos, echad b'Shabbos, v'sheni b'Shabbos. Yisrael shar gored on 3 successive Shabbosim, and then on Sunday and Monday. So the last Shabbos, do we put together with Sunday and Monday, or do we put it together only with the first 2 Shabbos? Ha Shabbos batrais a bus Shabbos with the shadin alay, and therefore he's only a mu'at for Shabbos when everybody's dressed in their finery, when he's not working. Bakat le Shabbos with the yayid alim moisa chol lo yayid. Aydom a bus echad b'Shabbos b'sheni b'Shabbos shadin alay. The last Shabbos we put together with Sunday and Monday, and then he's a Shabbos a mu'at for both. V'yayid le lekulayum, and he's a mu'at for both. Chamishi b'Shabbos v'erev Shabbos. Now we go the other way around. Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Chamishi b'Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. So the first Shabbos, what do we do? Ha Shabbos kamaisa, basar chamishi b'Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, do we put it together with Thursday, Friday? So you have Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos, v'ayayid l'kuli yoma, for during the week and on Shabbos. Oidilma, ha Shabbos kamaisa, basar Shabbos, we put it together with the 2 Shabbos at the end, ula Shabbos udiyayid, and not for the weekday. Teku tishbi yitaretz kushis v'yibayis. Now, nogach shor yom chamisha asa b'chodesh zeh. If the shor gored on the 15th of Kislev, and then v'yom shisha asa b'chodesh zeh on the 16th of Teves, and then v'yom shiva asa b'chodesh zeh on the 17th of Adar. Plukta the Rav and Shmuel. It's a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. The Emara say yom chamishi asa b'chodesh zeh, the 15th of Kislev, v'yom shisha asa b'chodesh zeh, the 16th of Teves, v'yom shiva asa b'chodesh zeh, and the 17th of Adar. Rav Amakavod Laves. He has created a pattern, and then on the 18th of Nisan, he's a mu'at to go on the 18th of Nisan. The Shmuel Amar no actually to shalish b'diglut. He has to have it 3 times of jumping ahead one day, and it's not enough that it jumps ahead one day. It has to have 3 times such a pattern, and the Gemara tells us that this machlokes is also true by Nidus. Amar Rava, Shama kol shayfer v'nogach. He heard the noise of a shayfer and gored. Shal kol shayfer v'nogach. Again he heard the shayfer and he gored. Kol shayfer v'nogach. And the 3rd time he heard a noise of a shayfer and he gored. nasa muad l'shefaris. If they blow a shofar and he gores, he has to pay a nezik shalom. So the Gemara says, duh, pshita, it's obvious. Says the Gemara, I might say that the first time we could say that he was just startled. We can't assign it to the shofar the first time. Ma'od desema, hak shofar kama, the first shofar blast, siyuta ba'alma hu denakte. He was just startled. And maybe we should need one more shofar time. Kamash Malan, no, we count the first time as well. Now, the pasuk says share'eyu. So therefore the pashtus is that you're chayiv only if you gore a shar of a fellow Jew. But if it's a shar of hektish, or if it's a shar of a guy, you're patur. And that's how the Mishnah starts off. Shar shel Yisrael shenogach shar shel hektish, a shar of Yisrael that gores a shar of hektish, or v'shel hektish shenogach l'shar shel hedyet, or a hektish that gores a shar of a common yid, patur. Shenemar sharei ehu v'loi shar shel hektish. So similarly, shar shel Yisrael shenogach l'shar shel Kanani, shar of a Yisrael that gores a shar of a guy, patur. Kanani shenogach l'shar shel Yisrael, but the shar of a guy that gores a shar of a yid, when they are under our control, we throw the book at him, bein tam, bein muad, mishalim nezik shalom. Now our Mishnah says that whether it's a shar, your shar that gores a shar of hektish, or a shar of hektish that gores a shar of Yisrael, either way it's patur. However, that's not the universal opinion. Masnisin the like Reb Shimon ben Manasseh. The Tanya shar shel hedyet shenaga shar shel hektish v'shel hektish shenaga shar shel hedyet patur shenema shar re'eyu v'loi shar shel hektish. However, Reb Shimon ben Manasseh disagrees. Reb Shimon ben Manasseh Aimer shar shel hektish shenaga shar shel hedyet, a shar of hektish that goes a shar of hedyet is patur. But v'shel hedyet shenogach shar shel hektish, but a shar of hedyet that goes a shar of the temple, bein tom bein muad, mashalom nezik shalom. You gore the mikdash is yodai al yaina. If you gore a shar of hektish, whether it's a tam, your shar is a tam or a muad, you have to pay nezik shalom. So now the Gemara wants to know what's the reason of Shimon ben Manasseh. Imrei, my kasav of Shimon ben Manasseh. So then hektish, if you go a shar of hektish, you should also be patur. Afilu shel hedyet shenaga shel hedyet lepatur. V'i re'eyu lav dafka, then afilu the hektish nami, even hektish kinagach the hedyet, should also lichayiv. V'chi teima lo'ilam kasava re'eyu dafka. Umiyu, even so, the hedyet kinagach the hektish, if a shar of hedyet goes a shar of hektish, hainu time in the mechayiv, because it's a kal v'chaymer. Mishim de kamaisle mekal v'chaymer the hedyet. Or my hedyet shinaga shel hedyet chayiv of chayiv. Even if I damage a commoner, then kinagach the hektish. When I damage the holy hektish, loy kol shechein the mechayiv. However, that's not good enough, because it says that I'm chayiv bein tam bein muad and nezik shalom. But if I learn it out from a kal v'chaymer of hedyet, we should say daya. Daya lovim in adin liyes kanadan. Malahalan by if you damage a hedyet tam chatzi nezek. So here also hachanami by hedyet damaging hektish, it should be only a chatzi nezek by a tam. But we said that according to Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, when a hedyet damages a hektish, even a tam pays a nezek shalom. So we'll discuss tomorrow what the reason is. We are going to now do the Mishnah Yomis, and we're going to do now the Mishnah Yomis, and we want to remind you that 8 o'clock tomorrow is the shir. We also want to remind you that there are sponsorship opportunities available. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Just going to.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome.